Hi, everybody. Welcome to TalentED, and I'm your host, Dr. Eric Skanson. And today I'm excited to introduce our guest, Duane Jourdeans. Duane has a background in English. He's a former teacher, coach. He has expanded his skills, though, and he is now a speaker, consultant, author, inventor, perhaps. He's coached multiple state championship high school teams and shares his expertise as a speaker for the Positive Coaching Alliance. But I'm not done. So what sets Duane apart is his in-depth study of emotional intelligence and positive psychology. So he's one of our resident experts here at School Pro. He's explored their impact on happiness, well-being, success, employee engagement through like interactive workshops, consulting, dynamic speaking events. He shares that knowledge and experiences. So we are super excited to have Duane with us. So get ready to hear a little bit of secret of life, the secret sauce from Duane. Welcome, Duane, to the podcast. Here, let us know what's the secret of life, or tell us a little bit even more about you that I didn't already cover.
Oh man, well, thanks for having me. First of all, it's awesome to be with you today. Probably the most important thing is have an awesome wife who has been supportive of all my different educational tracks I've been down, and we have two sons, both that have just graduated, one from college, one from high school. So we're sending one to college, and my oldest son is also very interested. One just graduated from college at Nebraska, is also very interested in positive psychology and emotional intelligence. He got a degree in business and in psychology.
Right.
So it's kind of a family trait going on.
Well,
right now.
the secret sauce is working then, isn't it?
We're trying.
Tell us a little bit more about your background, your education background. So, I gave everybody a little bit of a teaser that teacher, coach. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Yeah, I'm heading into my 29th year this year of teaching. And so, but throughout the years, I have my master's in education, but then I also got a master's in counseling. And so I was a school counselor for a few years in the middle there, and then really missed the classroom actually when I left to be a counselor for a few years. And so there was an opportunity to kind of jump back into my old position that I left within the same district. And I did that, and then just started applying kind of the things I used in my counseling degree in the classroom and in coaching as well.
Great. So, I mean, if we had to boil down your passion area, like your purpose in this space, how would you define that?
I think I would say trying to help people flourish, trying to help them be the best self that they can be, whether that is an educational leader, whether that is a teacher, whether it's students, and now I'm also working with professional sports teams as well. So it's just trying to help people be their best self and finding ways to do that.
So, thinking about the principles of positive psychology, how could we effectively integrate that into our schools and our institutions, and help educational leaders lead their teams? Because you talked about your coaching experience, both sports coaching, and now you're working with professional sports, but also just this idea of coaching in general.
Yeah, and I think with positive psychology, so I'll jump back a little bit because in 1998, Martin Seligman took over the American Psychological Association. And before that time, it was just clinical psychology. And so it was just trying to lessen like pain and suffering that people were going through. And when he took over in 1998, he's like, hey, let's also look at the other end. So instead of trying to get someone who's a -6, moving them to a -2, just lessen their suffering, let's look at what people are doing really well that helps them be their best selves, what helps them flourish, what helps them be really happy. And so when I look at it from that standpoint, there's an acronym that goes along with positive psychology, coined by Dr. Seligman as well, and it's PERMA. And it deals with positive emotion, engagement, relationships, so connections between people, meaning in your job, having achievement, but also more so than just like achieving things, it's the journey along the way. And then also health, which is something they added about 5 or 6 years ago. So when it first started, it was PERMA without an H, but they added
Mm-hmm.
health, which is, eating right, getting enough sleep, things like that.
Did you say
So
88?
98, 98.
98. Okay. That's even worse actually than it was in my head. So like it wasn't until 98
Yeah.
where that practice switched.
Yep. It's crazy. And
Oh.
then at Harvard, so Dr. Tal Ben Shahar is one of the professors at Harvard, and he started teaching a happiness class
Hmm.
basically. And it was the most popular class out of all classes. He would have an auditorium full
Mm-hmm.
of like 1,000 people that were taking this class, and wildly popular. So because people were, wanted to become better, wanted to, flourish, wanted to have their well-being elevated. And so really that PERMA comes down to, if you are working on each of those five things in your life, you're probably going to have a good chance at being successful. Um, a lot of people think that success is, oh, if I get to this spot, or
Mm-hmm.
if I get this much money and things like that.
That's a classic
Um,
trap, isn't it?
yeah, right. And so they look at, this goalpost of success, but every time you achieve something, it moves again. And so it's hard to measure success that way. But if you are working on your happiness, your well-being, and things like that, success is usually a natural byproduct of that. So in terms of like being an administrator or a teacher, if you can personally, I kind of look at it as spheres. If you
Mm-hmm.
can work on your well-being as yourself, um, that's a good starting point. And administrators can kind of lead that. And then you can work on the connections within your classroom and the
Mm-hmm.
environment that you create. And you can help your students flourish. Administrators can help their teachers flourish. And there are specific things that I kind of focus on within that. One in particular is positive priming, where if you move someone from a negative or neutral state to a positive state, they will have a much better chance at, like in the classroom, if you do that
Mm-hmm.
with a student, or a staff meeting with your
Mm-hmm.
teachers, you put them into a positive state instead of negative or neutral state, they're going to pay attention more. They're going to learn better. It just lights up their brain in a different way. And
Wow.
so that one of the things I've focused on over the years, has been, what can I do in the first couple minutes of class? So it's kind of like a bell ringer
Mm-hmm.
situation. What can I do in the first few minutes of class that invests in trying to move them from that, neutral negative state to a positive state, because it's going to make their learning experience so much better and their ability to retain things so much
Mm-hmm.
better. And it creates a great classroom environment. So,
Positive
um,
priming.
yeah.
Positive priming, everybody. Positive priming. You probably know this story better than me, but I feel like I've heard this story in relation to happiness about there's a famous psychologist who works with the filthy rich, and the story goes that the filthy rich person comes in is just completely unhappy, and the person is talking to the psychologist, and they're talking about, well, you've been very successful, you've made millions and billions of dollars, why aren't you happy? And the answer comes back as, well, I made 1 billion, but I want to be a multi-billionaire. So it really doesn't matter if you're bringing home 35 an hour or $1 billion a year. The mindset is always, the trap there is, but I could do more, but I could do
Yeah.
more.
And I
How
think
do you speak to that?
well, and there was a study done, it was a couple years ago now, so inflation, the numbers might be a little bit different. I think it was like maybe 2020, where they looked at, once people hit around 75,000, like in terms
Mm-hmm.
of income, like anything over that didn't increase their
Mm-hmm.
happiness at all. It didn't impact that. If they had enough money to, be able to live their life and things, that they could get
Mm-hmm.
happiness from that. But then it's chasing that goalpost of what you think
Right.
happiness is. And so, I mean, I've done studies within my classes where, for multiple years now, when I first explored positive priming, it was probably, I think maybe 15 years ago. And what, I set up, so I had 5 classes, the same class, English 9. So, and mixed abilities and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so I had 5 class periods throughout the day. In the first quarter of the year, the first and second period, I engaged in, I'm sorry, first quarter, I just kind of let things go the way they were. Second quarter, I had first and second period. I engaged in trying to ignite basically positive emotion with them with humor for the most part, with maybe funny videos or things like that. My third class period of the day, I didn't do anything. And my fourth and fifth class periods, I had them getting the same stuff as earlier in the day. So trying to ignite humor, but also letting them connect about it afterwards. So it's human connection within that too, which is kind of that relationship piece. And the only thing I tracked was their grade percentage. And then, so first semester I did that. And then second semester, everyone got priming. First semester, the classes that got priming and connection were pretty similar, but their grades increased by about 6% overall, average. But second semester, when I had everyone priming, it was about 8%. So their grade was 8%. And so like the top kids didn't move a whole lot. The area I found the most movement in was the lowest students, the students that struggled in English. It was just changing their mindset when they came to class. And again, it was getting them, they maybe hate English, but it was getting them moving from that, oh gosh, here's English class, into, oh, this is going to be something that is pretty fun and exciting. And I try to be that way throughout class too, but getting that in the first couple minutes was really valuable. And so then it's kind of evolved from there, where I've gotten into some more in-depth analysis of the PERMA categories with students. And I've been doing that the last few years and finding I'm moving their well-being by about an average of 6 to 10%. In different categories. So it might be 3% in one and 10% in the other, but it's been fun to see that there's been growth. And kind of the unique thing last year is, so I'm at St. Thomas Academy, which is an all boys military school, and our schedule is interesting in that we don't see the students every day. It's a 5-period day with 8 periods that rotate. So I would see them about 3 days a week. So after 30 days of seeing them not every day, we grew about that average of, 8 to 10% categories. So it was cool.
Well, again, I think anybody can just see from how you handle yourself, and you're talking like you would be a positive person to be around. And I can imagine that those kids really benefit from being in your classroom. I mean, really here, we're talking about emotional intelligence. When this comes down to it, like how do you master that, right? Like your EQ. Think about this in terms of maybe educational leadership, and how can school administrators take what you know and effectively lead emotional intelligence in their schools to foster better things like communication, teamwork, collaboration among their staff.
Sure. Yeah. And, emotional intelligence really fits in the bucket of positive psychology as a whole. And there's so much, when I use those two terms, I mean, the umbrella is kind of positive psychology. Emotional intelligence just has so many tentacles that wrap into things. And one of the first things I think administrators need to do is to figure out where they're at. Because a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. And so it's tough to assess your emotional intelligence just on your own. I mean, you can look at, there's a model that at Genos, so I'm certified through Genos International, which is global company, top 20 survey company, one of the leaders in emotional intelligent leadership development and assessment. And so there's 6 different categories that are 6 different competencies that are involved. How aware are you about your own emotions? How aware are you of other people's emotions? How authentic you are. I think one of the things that can come up is someone's really angry. They're upset. And someone asks them, hey, are you okay? And they're like, I'm fine. And that's, you're not being authentic because, you could tell that you're mad and you're saying you're not. So it's being genuine. And then there's emotional reasoning, which I think for administrators needs to be, it's important. It's basically emotional reasoning is, do I take in consideration the feelings of other people when I make decisions, and not as the sole, defining moment, but I think about how people might feel when I make this decision, or the school board makes this decision, or us as an administrative team, we make a decision. How are people going to feel? And then self-management, how well you regulate your emotions. Are you resilient when maybe things aren't going your way, or are you temperamental or get upset easily? Then positive or inspiring performance is the last competency. How well you get people engaged and doing well in their job, and showing gratitude and things like that falls in that category. So the first step for an administrator is to figure out, okay, where am I in these competencies? And with my assessments, there are 7 behaviors within each one of those categories that get assessed. And so the goal is, okay, we figure out where you're at, and now let's look at like 3 to 5 things that are really going to be game changers. And I liken it to, like, if a friend of mine was working out on a treadmill, and he actually runs Genos North America, him and his wife, they're in charge of North America. He's on a treadmill, and he's just walking flat. And he thinks he's exercising, and that's what he's always known. If I do this, and a guy next to him said, hey, if you move up 3 degrees, if you move it to 3, you're going to burn almost twice as many calories. It's like a third, or it's close to twice as many calories if you just move it up 3 degrees. And Jeff was like, what? You're kidding me. I had no idea. And once he knew that, now every time he goes on the treadmill, boom, he's up 3 degrees, and it makes a huge difference. And so it's the same thing with the competencies and behaviors. It's once you can identify where you can pinpoint some spots to work on, and you can really focus in on just a few, not 15 or something like that, because there's 42 behaviors. But if there's 3 to 5, you might be game changing for the people that you're working with, for your staff.
Wow.
If you aren't great at inspiring performance because you I've been talking about blanket statements lately a little bit. Sometimes, there might be an email that goes out, thanks for everything, you guys are awesome. And that's great. That's not negative, but it has very little to no impact on the employees. They're like, okay,
neutral at best.
Yep. Yeah. It doesn't move the needle in terms of, trying to move someone from negative or neutral to positive. Going back to positive psychology, it's not really going to do that. But if they focus on giving truthful and specific praise on a consistent basis to people, and you can give blanket statements, okay, that's fine. Like that's better than nothing. But I know as a coach, one thing I started to do, and then it spilled over in the classroom, was I had kids' names on my practice schedule. So I'm a head basketball coach. On the bottom of my practice schedule, I would list names of like 3 players that, okay, I want to make sure that I kind of pour into this player today, really connect with them, look for ththings that they're doing well, and really, fill their bucket, if you want to consider it.
That's a good hot tip right there.
And as an administrator, I've worked with a few that doing the same thing. One of the top charter schools in Minnesota, I know that he has a list of his staff, and he wants to make sure he connects with them. But then you can plan it first, but I know what's happened has been, gone from planning, so it's in the forefront. Okay, I want to make sure that I am giving some great gratitude and feedback to people, but then it just starts to naturally happen all the time. It's kind of like you turn on an app in your brain that scans your staff for the positive, and now you're going to start noticing things more and more, and just saying them when you see them, and then also dropping notes, dropping emails that are really specific, as opposed to, thanks for everything. So it carries a lot more weight.
Like swinging with the donut on your bat, right? Like it's harder right away, but you pull that donut off and you got a much better swing.
For sure. Yes.
Hopefully, definitely.
Right? Yeah.
Right. I'm going to switch this for a second because I want people to know a little bit more about you. And then in the end, I want you to think about what would it be like to work with you? Like, what does that look like as an administrative team or as a school leader? But first, I have some very serious, important questions for you, Duane. Cat or dog?
Neither.
Oh, They do
We
not make you goldfish, then it is. Okay.
I'm allergic to cats, and we used to have one, but a long time ago, we ended up having to give it away because I couldn't do it. And then I grew up with dogs, and we just have not.
And
We
dogs are
had
a lot of
cats.
work. I mean, they're a lot of fun to visit, but
Yeah,
they're a lot of
with
work.
I think with my coaching schedule and things, and it it was tough. And my wife has gone to everything that I've coached to, so it's like we're family on the run all the
Okay.
time. So
Uh,
we opted out of pets so
well,
far.
maybe this one's easier than Pepsi or Coke.
Ooh,
Careful, future
I would
sponsorships
have.
out there.
Yep, I would have said years ago. I would have said Pepsi. And I think I've migrated to Coke Zero, and
Okay.
so I'll slide.
Endorsement, maybe.
Yep, I'll slide towards Coke Zero specifically. When we were in France, the last like a couple of weeks ago here, and there was no Pepsi products,
Uh-huh.
and it was just Coke Zero and Coke, and that was it. So I was good. I was
You're
good. So
good.
that, yep.
Pancakes or waffles, or maybe I should say crepes.
I'd probably choose a crepe because it's thinner. I can't.
Yeah,
I, I'm not a big pancake or waffle guy. If I had to choose between them, I'd choose waffles. But
a little
I'd probably
crispier.
choose crepes if that was in there. Yeah.
I want to know if you're going to go on vacation. Are you heading towards the mountains or are you going towards the beach?
Beach.
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 Okay. This one's fun. And this is a round trip, mind you. Would you rather travel to the past or travel to the future? You do get to come home.
Okay. Future.
Future.
I'm just excited about how, especially from a technology standpoint, what things are going to look like. So,
Okay. Okay.
according to Back to the Future 2, we're supposed to be on hoverboards and things a few years ago.
Yeah, we didn't quite get there.
That was 84, 88. So,
Okay, last one. What's the most bizarre thing you've ever eaten?
oh, I had an opportunity to have escargot in France, but I opted out. But I'll use a France example because I am not an adventurous eater necessarily.
Okay.
So I was a little uncomfortable in France, but my son was trying out some new things. And so he had beef tartare, which
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand it's not cooked beef, but it's like kind of
Like
pickled might be the right
like
word.
blanched or like
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
quickly like saltwater boiled or something. Yes.
Yep. And so I did try that and I did not enjoy it. And he thought it was okay, but
He thought
I
it was
was
okay.
but I tried it. So that was a big step for me.
There you go. Trying new things, leaning into
Yep.
fear, staying positive. Did you
Yes.
positive prime it?
I should have. I don't think I did as much. I think I was negative neutral side of
There you
things with
go.
that.
Even the best, the most
Yep.
informed can still go negative, right? Well, here's where we're gonna end. Last call to action, or tell us what would it be like if you came in to work with the team? What do you expect?
Yeah, I think just from the get-go, I try to communicate a lot with whether it's a school or business or whoever. Try to communicate with administrators like in a perfect world, when I left, what would you want things to look like?
Hmm.
Like trying to have their end result in mind. Um, what what types of actions do you want your staff to be able to
Hmm.
move forward with afterwards? And so I customize everything that I do for everywhere that I go. There's some basic
Hmm.
concepts that I focus on, but in next month I'm really focusing on the priming and collaboration with that
Great.
with a group of schools. I think there's 3 or 4 school districts that are all coming together in one spot,
Nice.
and just they want collaborative time across districts to be able to talk about what I'm talking
Hmm.
about. And I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not a guy that's going to stand up in front and talk to you for an hour,
Hmm.
and that's it. Even a keynote, anything, there's going to be interaction with people in the audience are going to be able to
Hmm.
collaborate, communicate, engage in things, because I think there has to be time to be able to try to apply the things that I'm talking about,
Right.
because I mean, I've been in, PDs for 28 years, and not all the time, but most of the time it ends up being, they tell you stuff for a while and they're like, well, see you later and good luck with that. And
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher, we're so busy, and administrators so busy that, okay, now I have to go and get ready for the school year, the beginning of the year. I have to get ready for next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there has to be time built in where you can set things up to use them immediately.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So for, like positive priming, there's time to be able, okay, what could a week look like for you? So you have a variety of activities. So there's some novelty to things going on. You're not doing the same thing every day. And, I share some examples and things, but I want to have people have time to be able to get ready to put it to use right now.
I like that a lot, actually. I'm going to go home and positively prime my son to get the rest of his room clean. And I'll report back to you to see if I had a better success rate than I've had before. How's that?
You could just say, hey, what are 3 things that went really well today? And then he can
there you go.
Those. What's one thing you're grateful for? And then his brain's changing, and then he'll
happily put the clothes away. Yes, yep. I love
there
it.
You go.
Well, we've covered a lot today in this short period of time. And again, Duane has so much more to offer you than in these 15, 20 minutes here that we've just talked. If you want to connect with them, please let us know. We'd be happy to connect you to Duane to get him into your school here at School Pro. Any final one-liners for everybody?
Ooh, a one-liner. Let's see. Gosh, that's
call
a
to
tough
action.
One.
Anything you want. It can be a couple lines. I'll positive prime in this one. Duane, you're awesome. We just want to hear from you.
I think that the biggest thing that you can do in terms of emotional intelligence is to become self-aware of your own emotions, because without self-awareness, you can't really move on to any of the other steps. So start thinking about how you're feeling and how that might be impacting you and the people around you.
I think everybody in the audience has one thing. I'm just going to channel them who's listening to say to you, go Tar Heels. North Carolina basketball is the best. Is that positive priming? I think it might be Duke in the back. Is that correct?
I've got Duke over on the side. Yep. Got
just kidding.
Autographs going back there. So
just kidding. We're going to positive prime, and way to go, Duke, and way to go, Duane Jourdeans, everybody. Okay, so here we go. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of TalentED. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review. And if you have any suggestions for future topics or guests, please contact us. And I want to thank Duane for coming on and talking with us today. And then until next time, everybody, keep learning, keep growing, and stay PKS, which is positive, kind, and supportive. Thank you, everybody.